let's begin with just knowing who are you and why should we listen to your advice?
That's a great question. My family asks me that question all the time, actually. So my name's Mike Kimball. I'm a professor of anthropology here at the University of Northern Colorado. I also direct the Center for Applied Contemplative Studies here. And I'm a mindfulness teacher that's certified through the Mindfulness Institute for Emerging Adults. And I've been doing that. I've been teaching mindfulness for, since 2016, and practicing mindfulness longer than that. And also wrote a book that combines mindfulness with different kinds of social sciences, especially cultural anthropology. And the title of the book is Ethnowise. There's a colon, as there usually is with a lot of books like this, and it goes embracing culture shock to build responsiveness, resilience, and connection. So I've been thinking about this stuff for a really long time, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of that with others.
And a lot of facets, too. You say emergent adults, you say in anthropology, all of these different facets.
Yeah.
But going back to the root of it, what is mindfulness?
Yeah, so mindfulness, there's a nice pithy little definition of it provided by a medical researcher and kind of one of the leading figures in integrating mindfulness into education and into treatment. He's like I said, a medical researcher, Jon Kabat-Zinn, who worked on incorporating mindfulness practices into the treatment of his patients who were suffering from a lot of pain and both psychological and physical pain. So his definition I love, and a lot of people know it, and that is mindfulness is practicing training your attention in a particular way on purpose, in the moment, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. So those three parts are super important. You're training your attention on purpose. A lot of times our attention is zooming around, right? Our phone buzzes, we hear a noise that's interesting. We're in a conversation with somebody and all of a sudden we see somebody walk by and we're distracted. So our attention is always bouncing around, but this is training it to be on purpose, and also in the present moment, because let's face it, a lot of times when we're sitting there, we're thinking, what am I going to be doing in 10 minutes? What am I going to be doing next week? Or going through ruminating about things that we did before, and somebody's having a conversation with us, and we're not really there. Let's say it's a two-person thing. We're not really there. We're more just living in our headspace, roving around, thinking about the future, or obsessing about the past or whatever it might, fantasizing, whatever it might be. So that second part, in the present moment, is kind of a big one, because we're actually realizing as we do that that's all we have. We just have the present moment. And the last one is non-judgmentally, because as human beings, a lot of times we kind of spend our headspace is filled with criticisms of ourselves and of others. We're always judging things. Oh, I shouldn't have said it that way. That kind of thing, right? And instead of actually just sort of noticing what's coming up in the present moment, I'm being critical of myself or something like that, and then letting it go. We're just clinging to it. So we're always kind of judging our situation. So the non-judgmental part is a huge part of mindfulness practice. Just noticing it, whether it's positive, negative, or neutral, letting it go. So that's kind of it's that practice. It's a little bit like thinking of it as a muscle, like you would do in a gym. You work a muscle. If you don't work it, it atrophies. And it's possible that in today's world, high-tech world, we're letting that attention muscle atrophy.
It's a really good way to put it. So backed by science, by someone named last name Zen.
Yeah,
it's very fitting.
Jon Kabat-Zinn. Yeah,
and then with purpose, in the present, and non-judgmental.
Yeah, and
all those things can fit. Especially you work with college students. You're a professor. Yeah. Why should students adopt some of this mindfulness practice?
Yeah, so we're all human beings. So hopefully some of the stuff I said just now resonates, because as human beings we just kind of live in that world where we're distracted and we're concerned about past and future, and not so much the present, or we're reacting to it. And so students are no different. We're all human. And, certainly in my classroom, I notice nowadays, especially after the pandemic, and I think this will go years and years after the pandemic, it's kind of left a ripple effect through human society. There's more anxiety in the room. There's more confusion in the room, and obviously more distraction because of technology and all kinds of other
and you've noticed
means.
this.
And I've seen it first person so much. And let's face it, our society anyway doesn't really train young people in how to cope with that, how to manage it. Instead, we're just left to our own devices, right? And that makes it hard. And so when you're coming into a college classroom where there's all kinds of demands on your time and demands on your attention, you are going to, as this ancient Greek philosopher, warrior, poet, whose name escapes me at the moment because it has many syllables in it, said something like, when you're in let's say a combat situation, you don't rise to the level of your aspirations for how you're going to perform. You fall to the level of your training. And so I think when we're in a classroom context and there's, again, a lot of demands on our time and whatnot, we're going to fall to a level of our training. And right now we have no training in general. We're not given that kind of training. And so everybody's minds are all over the place. And so I think for students especially, just developing some of these mindfulness skills will help them be successful in the way that they want to be.
Yeah. Which is why you're developing these modules, these mini courses for students to practice and be more introduced. There's a lot that comes with it, right? Just as you mentioned, I mean, there's three big facets that you mentioned. The amount that students are going to deal with within these courses and these modules. What do they have to be done step by step, or can they be done just as needed? Yeah,
so there's 4 modules. There could be a lot more, but the 4 that I kind of thought were really key to promoting your own academic success. Those 4 modules are, first of all, just preparing for class. Again, when you go into class and your mind is scattered and you're just thinking about all this other stuff, or you're distracted by your technology or whatever, you're not there. You're not present in the classroom. So how can we prepare for class? The second one is focusing on assignment and exam anxiety. Not a small problem. So how do we get ourselves mindfully into a place where we can do the best we can do, given however we prepared for it in that context, whether it's the high pressure of an exam or whether it's just even getting an assignment done that's, oh, wow, I've waited until the due date, which is tomorrow, to get that done. And the third one is I think a really important one for today's world, and that is how to cope with or manage discomfort. Because we live in a society where when we're feeling discomfort, we just want to get away from it. We hate it. We hate discomfort. I had a professor when I was in college who wrote this very eloquent sentence or two, which I can't remember, but I will paraphrase it for you. And it was something like this. He was a biology professor, actually, and he studied ecology and so forth. And he said, when you encounter some new information that conflicts with your worldview, that challenges your assumptions, and causes you discomfort, pay attention. You're about to learn something. And so really I believe that if we learn to sort of embrace discomfort rather than run away from it all the time, we actually are opening our minds to learning. We're actually opening our hearts too to connecting to other human beings and other living things in the world. But when we're afraid of discomfort, we feel ourselves contracting and sort of shutting down. So I want to work on that. And the last module is specifically focused on how to mindfully read. Reading still happens in higher education, even though the younger generation is like taught again and again and again that reading is like a caption at best or a video. There's not a whole lot of reading anymore when you're on your phone, right? And so there's really not a lot of training around that either. So what is it like to actually mindfully read? And so I have some ideas to suggest for that too.
Great. So we're going to be practicing different mindfulness techniques, trying just when it comes to coming into a classroom, exams and assignments, just coping with the uncomfort that is life or school, and then actually focusing and reading on something.
That's right.
Looking forward to it.
Try. Yeah. All right. Me too. Cool.